the stream now. Okay, welcome everyone to the Toku Portal podcast. It's me, Zero, here with...
Right. Surprise, I'm here this week. Because Vashi wasn't going to make it and I wasn't doing anything, so I figured I'd save Zero from having to do another solo podcast.
It's fine, it's not a big deal. But thank you for joining me anyway.
Well, I know that I didn't like to do them, which is why I never did.
Yeah, like honestly, like the last couple have been like, well, that episode was okay, but I'm like, fuck, I got nothing to talk about, right? At least this one, I'm like, oh, I actually got like a couple things to talk about, even if I had to do it solo. It wouldn't have been interesting. It still would have been like 15 minutes long, but I'm like, hey, at least I got something for once. Yeah. But either way, so this episode, what happened? There was a fight. That's what happened.
So,
yeah.
Why did Caliber revive?
I think it's just the power of the sword. Like the sword just has like a gimmick, because like all the swords have gimmicks, right?
And this is his?
I think like the Dark Saber's gimmick is like they can revive. See, I thought what was gonna happen is like Kento was gonna become the new user of the Dark Saber, because like both
the new Caliber.
Yeah, like the new Caliber, because like the current Caliber would have died, and then he also died, but he was infected, and then he just turned into like dark energy, like this mist stuff, right? And so I'm like, oh, he's gonna come back, because the way the previews made it out to seem, it's like, oh, he's gonna come back and he's gonna be evil because he's gonna be possessed. I'm like, oh, that's super interesting. And then they didn't do it. I'm like, what the fuck? This ship can actually throw a twist.
It could be Kento under the mask now.
I
don't think it is.
No, it's not. Because next week's preview, it's...
Oh, right, that's right, the preview. It's straight up not him.
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of sad. But it's like, plus, everything Caliber is talking about is the same thing that, like, the current Caliber was talking about. So it's like, either the sword just has the same mentality, or like it's just the same dude. And with next week's preview, it's just the same dude. So I'm like, holy shit! I did not expect them to actually kill off Kento, right? Because at first I'm like, I thought Arthur was gonna fucking revive him, and that didn't happen. Then like the Dark Saber infected him, so I'm like, oh, he's gonna come back as a bad guy, and that didn't happen. I'm like, holy fuck, he's actually dead. Like, that's the unexpected.
Well, his soul is trapped in the sword.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they also handed out everybody his items, which was one of those, like, really sad but kind of cool moments. Or, I mean, not cool, but, like, good moments where it's like everybody's continuing on his spirit of fighting.
I believe the episode is titled, like, the memories in this blade or something. Hold on.
It's called These Feelings Dwell in This Blade.
Yeah, which, has a different meaning for the audience.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I also love how Rentaro is all like fired up and like emotional now. I'm gonna cut through with my feelings. I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, that's different character growth, I guess, because like he's so like stoic normally.
Right, it's like, oh, someone died, so take things more seriously, I guess.
Well, no, it's more like he's just continuing on with like Kento's will of like do shit that you want
fighting
to actually
with the
do.
Passion.
Sorry, what?
I said like fighting with a passion.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, because Rentaro was all just like, you gotta follow the code, and like Kento was like, fuck that, I'm gonna do what I want. And then he died, but it's like, he kind of had a point where it's like, you should learn to live, because it's kind of short life being a swordsman. Yeah, next episode's gonna be interesting. I mean, like, there's a couple interesting points. Is like one, like, there's this like the whole episode's one giant fight, and it's actually it wasn't terrible. Like, it was pretty decent. So the show's come far from its beginnings. And then the other thing was like, oh, the Caliber shit's still going on. Where the fuck is Sophia? What did Sophia actually do? What happened in the past? There's actual questions now. Rentaro gets a new form. All the current members kind of like reflect on like Kento dying. Like that was, it's actually a pretty decent episode. Like I actually like the beginning where it's like May is kind of blaming herself, and then Buster is like, no, stop that. Like he died doing what he wanted to do. Like we should just carry on his legacy. I mean, that's what Blade says, right? Which is like carry on his will.
Right.
And then they all get like the items. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So it's like, see, here's the thing. I hope he doesn't come back. Like he's cool. Like he was a good character and all, but like I hope he doesn't come back. And this is one of those things where it's like they'll keep using Kento's items. So like as the show goes on, it just becomes part of the thing where it's like, oh right, like Saber shows up and he's got two swords, one's red, one's gold. And it's like if you've ever seen the show, you know what the hell that means, right? Like it would add to it.
Or like they find a new Ikazuchi.
Yeah, maybe. That would be interesting.
Because, like the swords kind of like choose a worthy wielder, right?
Right.
So like if they found like a new member of the Sword of Logos.
I mean, they could, because there's the sudden base, right? Actually, what the hell happened? What the fuck happened to like Sophia and Sudden Base Lady? Like they've pretty much disappeared.
They showed up for one episode to give some exposition and then left. Their business was done.
They showed up for 2 episodes. I mean, Sophia's gone and nobody said anything.
Yeah, she just disappeared off the show.
Right. Like, I feel like she's gonna come back because, like maybe, like, that's what Caliber is on about, is, like, because he's like, oh, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. The truth's the only, like, real important thing in this world, because there's only one truth. And it's like, you can't even, like, and Buster's like, you should have talked to your friends and we would have helped you if you asked us. And he's like, you don't even know what you saw, buddy. Like, you don't even have the full picture. Like, what fucking good was talking to you? So it's like, there's something going on.
Like, she's been missing for several episodes now, and I haven't even noticed her absence.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, these episodes are pretty close together in the timeline, so it's like not, like, I haven't really had the time to sit down and look for her, but
right.
like May is filling out her role because that's what she was going to be anyway. Like, it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's May's role. Why does May keep insisting on being on the front lines?
Because that's her character. Which makes
Why?
sense. I don't know, because it's a fucking writer show. Why do all the fucking love interests show up on the front line?
I mean,
like, the only person who had a brain who didn't do that is, like, Hase from Blade. Right? Because she just tells them, is like, hey, there's the undead. Go fucking beat it.
But, like, at least with, like, Akiko from Double. Like, they run a detective agency, so she's on the scene, not fighting, but, she's still gathering clues and information.
Yeah, I think.
What is?
Well, yeah, I don't like. But the thing is, like, May, I guess, really hasn't settled in the role of just being like the base commander yet. So she just kind of always wants to be out there.
She wants to see all this stuff happening for herself because it's like, man, there's some really cool rider shit going on.
Yeah.
I get that, but it's also incredibly dangerous, and she's nearly gotten herself killed multiple times.
Yeah, I know. But, like, I think May is just too headstrong, which, it's fine because, like, that's kind of her personality. She's pretty easygoing, sort of, for the most part. Plus, Rentaro does keep her out of the way as much as he can. And, like, she usually just hangs around with either Saber or Blades. So, like, Like, yeah, I know it's weird, but I'm like, at this point in the story, I could kind of let it slide because, like, she hasn't settled into, like, fully just her role yet. Right? So, like, right now she's kind of doing, like, basically her job should be being, like the blade setup, but she's doing the O setup, where she's, like, running around being on the front lines with the book. But it's like, in O's it made sense. Like,
And it
Edgy.
knows it made sense. Like, here, core medals, or hey, I'll cover you from the back lines with my gun.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, maybe she could get some kind of, like, weapon or something later on, which should be fine. I mean, like, honestly, she should be a writer, but, who knows.
Maybe she'll be the new, like, Ikazuchi.
That would be interesting. Unlikely, but I could maybe see it.
What is his actual thing? Is he Espada?
Yes, Espada.
It's Espada, yeah. I can remember he was a lightning guy.
Yeah. Yeah, Espada. Um, so...
But yeah, no, she's just gonna have to get used to being the one with the book.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is like because Slash runs out there too now. It's like, well, nobody's in the base. What's the point?
Slash is a rider. He has a sword.
I know, but I'm thinking like at some point it's gonna get to the point where it's like Slash and her are gonna just have to stay at the base, and then she'll stay at the base. Because like otherwise, like it's kind of boring to have one person staying at the base with nothing going on. Like like that actor doesn't get paid, right? Like the reason why they're having May show up is like, hey, look, everybody.
So she can be in the show.
Yeah, well, that plus like they can shoot all the actors in one scene in one location, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't want to fucking waste more money shooting at the base, which is like 2 rooms, but like
when there's only one person there to
yeah,
film.
exactly, right. Well, if they at least had 2 people, then they could have like a support role going. But like May's too new at this. Like she doesn't even know exactly what the fuck the base does, so she can't really be like that kind of support.
That's one thing I liked is that when she was left alone and in charge of it, she explored and she discovered things.
Yeah, I actually like that. Like, I hope they go more into that, but like the show has this problem of like, there's no downtime. Like you said, right? Like, there's no downtime for anything. It's just like plot, 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 right? Like nobody slows down.
Like, I really want to like this show. Yeah, like I like nights, and this whole thing is night themed. But like, there's just something about it that is burning me out watching it.
Yeah, honestly,
I
like...
don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if it would be better if, like, after it was all said and done, and you just sit down and binge watch it at your own pace, if that would be better.
I think... Okay, it's gotten better because they toned down the exposition because all the characters got introduced. But that took like 8 episodes. So, like...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it would be better... Because, like, I feel like you would just feel like we're feeling now. I mean, like, yeah, maybe it'll be like, all right, don't worry about it. The like, show has a point. Just sit there and watch the, like, foreshadowing building up. It's sort of like the Wizard thing of, like, oh, if you actually, like, rewatch the show, you can actually see, like, all the setup that they did. But, like, again, that doesn't make Wizard good. You can just see stuff. Like, and I like Wizard, but even I'm like, well, that doesn't save a show. Right?
But, like, we've been watching this one episode a week, and so I feel wondering if the reason why I'm burning out is because the story is moving rather slowly. Like, things feel like they're taking so long. I feel like if you're just watching this at your own pace, like, watch 3 episodes a day, and so now you've caught up to this point over the course of a week, if things may be more meaningful and like at a faster pace.
Maybe, I don't know. I do agree this show's pacing is not good because like it's so full of shit going on like constantly, but again, like the main plot doesn't really go anywhere, right?
What is the main plot?
I don't know. I guess it's whatever the fuck Caliber is doing right now. right?
What
Because
is Caliber doing?
well, he wants the truth, so like he's looking for some great power. But the thing is, like, yeah, I don't know.
Truth about what? And that's where the that's
I
one of the core
I feel like
problems.
that's
One
gonna
of
get
them.
answered next episode because of what the preview, because it's like it's the flashback to what happened 15 years ago.
Right. I
But
really hope so.
but the problem is then that's just gonna end Caliber's arc of like, oh, you were wrong, you die. And then like we spent like, like 15 episodes and like we went nowhere. Right? Like this also feels like the show is like, okay, we're telling a story arc is done, new story arc. It's
Here's
like a
the
whole new
problem.
show. It's
Here's the
not
problem
good.
with.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with the storytelling. Caliber is looking for the truth. About what?
I know, right? Like it's kind of terrible at
Is
foreshadowing
he
things.
is he like does he think that the Sword of Logos is actually evil or corrupt or something? Is he like looking for the truth about the world? Is he trying to talk to God? What truth is he seeking? And this is the difference between laying out a mystery for the audience to be intrigued over versus just not telling them anything and leaving them bored.
Yeah, I mean, like, at least they're not trying to, like, hook us with nothing, because, like, I'm like, this could go real Akatsuki real fast.
That
From,
was not a good payoff.
yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. So I'm like, at least they're not trying to build it up like, holy shit, there's this important thing that happened in episode 1, but you're not gonna know what happened till, like, much later. Here, it's like,
It's
well,
like
something happened 15 years ago.
you could have
Go.
told us that so much sooner.
Yeah, I know, right? But I'm like, I think that's sort of what's happening. It's like it's not as bad as Akatsuki, but here it's like,
Yeah, no, Akatsuki Go took way too long.
right, like here it's just like, okay, Caliber is the main plot, but like he's good at fighting, but like there's nothing really else to him. Like his point of view is interesting because it's sort of the whole thing of like Ryuki, where it's like Shinji goes and asks his boss like, what the fuck is the point of us doing stuff? And his boss like, it's not your job to fix problems or solve crimes, man. Your job is to the truth. Like the one job of a journalist is to reveal the truth. Whatever happens after that. Right? It's not to fix the thing. It's to get people answers, right? And I'm thinking that's sort of the mentality that Caliber is going for, but like again, we don't spend enough fucking time with him, so you don't know what his headspace is like.
I don't even know who the other villains are.
Oh yeah, it's true. Like they've shown up enough, but they do nothing. Like okay, yeah,
one of them is evil, one of them is a monster, and I mean that more in the sense of like he just rampages, and one of them is just kind of there to mock others.
Yeah, and scheme, right? So it's basically like, okay, here's the sad part, like fucking the Time Jackers have more personality than these fuckers, except these guys get way more done than the Time Jackers.
I got a fucking read on the Time Jackers. Like, all right, Schwartz is the leader of the group, and he's the worst of them all. You got who's kind of like a kid, and you've got Aura, who was, kind of the no-nonsense type.
Right, exactly. Whereas, like, you get a read on these guys, but it's like you get a read on their monster forms. Like their out-of-suit forms are like, dude, you are, like, nowhere near the O's greed monster. Right? Like, those were so... They had, like, so much more personality than you fuckers.
And, like, with the Time Jackers, it's like I knew what their end game was. Like, we're trying to create a king. We were misled to believe that, like, they were trying to create a king to replace Omazio, but then, you get that twist reveal of, like, no, Schwartz wanted to create Omazio.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, too, is, like, we know what their goal is. They just want power to basically rule everything. But I'm like, that's such a fucking boring goal.
Is that it? Like, that's all they want? Because I know they're trying to create the new books or whatever, but it's like, what is the end game for you guys?
Like, they're trying to do the O's thing of like, oh, collect the things to get ultimate power to rule the world. But I'm like, it's so much more interesting in O's.
O's is really good.
Yeah, right. And so like the problem here is like they have like okay, unlike Coast, which was like okay, where the fuck does the story go? Like I feel like this time these guys know where they want the story to go, right? The problem is they planned it so hard, like plot, 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 plot. There's no character. There's like barely any room for character, right? It's like this happens, this happens, this happens. It's like why? Who knows? What's their personality? Who cares? You know, you're gonna get like slight glimpses at it because we need it for the plot, right? It's like it's so annoying. And that's the thing. Like honestly, like I'm not gonna defend the show. Like it's okay now, right? Like it's a mediocre writer show at this point. This episode was decent, you know. So that's the thing. Like it's not as terrible as it began, but I'm like I'm not. I don't know, man. Like this at the pace and the way it is now. Like yeah, you could say well, like maybe binge it and see how it goes, but I'm like I don't have the fucking energy to binge this show, right? Like it is not
Like,
worth my time.
So here's my reasoning behind that. I felt nothing when Kento died. And so I'm wondering if maybe if I was like watching the show at a more frequent pace, the emotions from his character would have built up more.
I don't think so. I think they just did. No. It's because they didn't spend enough time building him up.
Maybe they should spend more time establishing his friendship with Toma.
Yeah, right. Like honestly, I feel him and Blades have a better relationship than him and Toma. Whereas like him and Toma is like I'm like, okay, dude, bad shit happened to you. I don't want it to happen to anyone else. I remember you don't. I'll carry this burden. Go. So he's kind of doing the stoic hero shit with Toma, whereas like with Blades, he actually has like a character.
It's like, all right, you two were childhood friends. That's a good basis. Show us more about them being friends as adults.
Right, exactly. But that would require people to have like 5 minutes to sit down and not run off to fight
that would require screen time devoted to not like fighting monsters.
Right. Like, here's the thing. Like, imagine, like, Edgy and O's, right? Like, O's is kind of a collectathon, and it gets monotonous if you try to, like, binge watch that show, because it's a lot of, like, it's the same shit happening over and over for a little bit. But, like, the Edgy and Ankh stuff is fucking great.
Right. They would even bigger during fights that would, establish their friendship.
Right. It's pretty good. Whereas this is, like... It's not terrible, but it's like this is like base level writing. Like you need more characterization, but we can spend all day bitching about that. I don't know. Someone who's binged the show, let us know if it gets better. I feel like it won't because I feel like this is gonna be like early Blade. Going back and rewatching, it's like, oh, once you know what the fuck is going on, it's just a lot of padding in early.
Right,
Blade.
like that's my hope is that like the first arc of Blade is pretty rough, but on a rewatch it's better because you have more context. So yeah. I'm hoping that like that'll be the same for this show. On a rewatch, once you already know the characters, it'll make the introductions like it'll make this whole section easier to get through because you already have a read on their you have a better read on their personalities.
I think like the only way you could really make it better because like the problem is like I watched Early Blade and Early Blade is actually kind of boring because it's like nothing fucking happens, right? Because like the problem with Blade is like it's got the collecting monster gimmick except like it was before the collectathon, so like they just beat monsters and like they don't really gain too much power. So the early episodes are kind of just filler, honestly.
It was the foundation for Kenzaki and Hajime's friendship, as well as establishing Hajime's
that's true.
Inner humanity. But it mostly focused on Garen's fall from grace, which was a very jarring arc to watch, considering we didn't see him at his peak until after that arc ended and he recovered.
Right, but you literally named like two really interesting things to watch in Blade. It's like, Garen's fall and like Kenzaki and Chalice's like friendship. Whereas like, what the fuck is there in Saber? It's like it's nothing. It's like the early episodes are just exposition. Like, I mean, yeah, you like the number one arc is the Caliber thing and Kenzan's death, right? So it's like, okay, you can watch it for Kento. But it's, or I mean, not Kenzan, Espada's death, where you can watch it for Kento. But I'm like, he doesn't get that much character. He gets like a couple nice scenes. He's like a decent actor, but like, there's not that much. And Caliber, it's like maybe you'll see something where it's like he was being a little more cryptic, and maybe you could pick up on it like Fi style, read between the lines. But I'm like, I don't think so, because like his problem is like he's not even fucking charismatic, right? Like Evolt is real fucking charismatic. Like he's so much fun to watch. I mean, not Evolt, Stark,
Same thing.
right? Yeah, I know, but like Stark is interesting. Evolt's a fucking waste of time. Right? But a binging build, it gets better because you can just rush past the fights.
Right.
So like, nothing interesting has happened in Saber to make me like, oh
Like-
yeah, that's worth it. Also, we've been going like half an hour almost, and like we haven't talked about anything.
Because we've already talked about everything that happens in the episode.
Well, I mean, that's not
Like,
true. We didn't talk about Blades' new
Alright.
form.
We barely see it, but you know the suit looks nice.
Yeah. I freaking love how excited May is. And during all...
Right.
That's
She's
so cute.
super. Like that's the main reason why she goes to the front lines, because all this stuff is really awesome, and she wants to see it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And that's why it's so disappointing to me that I'm not enjoying this show. Because last week when Toma got his upgraded form, it's like, that's the coolest shit ever. Why
Yeah.
am I not hyped right now?
I know, right? Like, that form looks so nice, but I'm like, I mean, to be fair, it was okay. I mean, like, emotional enough, I guess. But, like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I don't... Like, Kento is a decent enough character, but, like, I don't really feel his loss.
So to compare this to the Kyria situation.
Yeah.
Early Xaid, all the characters are still kind of figuring themselves out, and so a lot of them aren't great. Kyria, however, walks in, and the actor knows what he's doing, and the character is actually getting shit done. So so he quickly becomes the best character on the show because of how efficient he is, how effective he is, and how valuable he is, and just how charming he is to watch.
That's
And
true.
so emotions were high when he died because you actually cared about him and you had reasons to, you know, not want him to die. There was a lot to like about him. There was a lot of emotions going on,
Right.
especially when you consider what he died for. But
Yeah, it's true.
Kento, what do we know about Kento?
Well, I mean, like, to be fair, like, Kento had a really decent arc where it's like, oh, he's just trying to, like, one, protect Homa, and two, fight his father and then clear his name.
Okay.
And he dies fighting that. But you're right, like, we don't really feel...
How valuable was Kento compared to anyone else on the team?
Yeah, see, that's the number one problem, is, like, the problem with the show is, like, it's Team A versus Team B. It's like, okay, like, there's, like, 6 people on this team and, like, 5 on the other. It's like, how valuable is any single person? Not that much. I mean, considering Sophia's been gone for 2 fucking weeks or something, and nobody gives a shit. I mean, well, I guess she's probably gone, like, a couple days in the show, but... Yeah, right, like, because everybody does the same thing, like, nobody feels important.
And was Kento charming at all? Was there any entertainment value in watching him? Did he have any positive qualities that made you like him as a character?
I mean, that's true. Like, I was gonna say he's, like, a good fighter and all that, but I'm like, honestly, the one person who has, like, oh... That'd be sad if they died is fucking Blades. because like Blades is so helpful and he's like a decent fighter and he's loyal and he does like fucking everything for everyone. Tries to keep the team together, right? So it's like, oh, if he died, that'd be
Yeah,
a problem.
then I'd like be so upset. 'Cause it's like, oh no, why'd you kill off that one? He was
Right.
so nice.
Yeah. I mean, the thing too is they fake it out. It's like, oh, he's so injured, and then he
Yeah,
survives, and then
I
like,
can't believe he lived just to die immediately.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, like, yeah, the fucking, oh man, the way the show just like delves out plot points is like, okay, well that's over. Oh, next episode, I can just go back and do the next thing. I'm like, dude, breather. Like, come on, man, you can't just like literally kill off like three. Okay, you just killed off Blades, but he survived. Then you killed off Kento, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's gonna come back because like Arthur is there, or the Dark Saber. And then this episode, I'm like, oh shit, he's actually dead. Okay, if it takes your show 3 episodes for me to go like, oh, they killed a guy, you know, right? And like they also killed Caliber, but he's fucking coming back next episode. So I'm like, I don't know how to feel show.
So,
Like,
so
also,
since
what was the point of Arthur? He didn't do anything.
right, he just gave Toma a power up, but not even one that was that much stronger.
Right, and it freaking takes, like, Slash to make it work. Like, okay, if you killed Blades and Slash, I would be so, like, oh shit. Like, you killed someone who's important to the show. Like, Kento
Slash
was
has
nice and important, but, like, not
Slash
as
has
good.
the Kiri effect on him. He's charming and he's effective. Like whenever he gets Slash goes into a fight, he gets shit done. So
Right.
if he died, like that would be emotional. That would be like, oh damn it, why would you kill off the cool one?
Right, especially considering he's their mechanic. Like, oh shit, that's a real problem, right? Because sort of.
Invaluable.
Right, exactly, because like the rest of these idiots can't fucking repair their shit for the most part. Um, that would have been a setback, right? Because now, then somebody would be like, shit, I can't go to the front line, I have to fucking repair all this shit, right? Then you're like, you're down one fighter. Actually, you're down two fighters because one, you got your original like slashes down, and then two, you're gonna have to have somebody back at the base maintaining the fucking base and the equipment now. So you're actually down two people, right? And like that would have been an interesting thing. Like, yeah, it'd be weird to kill Slash, but I'm like, I could still see it working. Like, Blades was a little weird that they tried to murder his ass. Um, but at least I would feel something. Like, Kento is a decent character, but like again, yeah, you're right. Like I don't really feel his loss as much. Um,
Uh,
whereas yeah, like
Slash
this
or
show's
Rintaro,
biggest.
yeah, I would feel that.
Right, like the biggest problem with the show is like, yeah, it's Team A versus Team B, and it's like what does it matter, right?
All the monsters of the week feel the same.
Oh god, like why do they even have monsters of the week? Like they
I
fucking do
don't.
nothing, right? Like just have the general show up and then have them like have grunts. It would work better than the
Then
fucking
you
monsters,
might as well just have grunts.
right? Like you're wasting money on monster suits that no one gives a shit about.
I wanted a Rider versus Monster series, but this is not it.
Yeah, yeah. Like this isn't even a rider versus rider because like the generals just sit around talking, and whenever they show up, they're just there to be the monsters, and like they don't have a rider bent to them. They don't have a monster bent to them because the monsters don't represent anything. Like, okay, name one monster you give enough of a shit to be like, oh, I could see a figure of that one. Like, I can't name a
Like,
single one in this show that I care about. Like, I mean, I could freaking name a couple. Like, there's a couple interesting ones in Build, like Xaid. Yeah, they're a little boring, but like they're not the main point in Xaid, right?
there was one monster in this show. It was early on. It was the salamander, because that monster introduced the concept of, hey, there's more than one out there. But then they immediately kind of, invalidated that quality when every monster after that also used that gimmick.
Yeah, I thought what they were doing is like all of the generals have their own gimmicks, like in O's, where it's like Mizul has the ability to create
All right,
monsters that like
you got
spawn.
water, you got like fish monsters, you got cat monsters.
Yeah, plus I mean like Mizul's monsters are all like horde
Oh,
or
right.
swarm or infectious.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
actually no.
Mizzles
Yellow.
were hoarders. Yeah, they would like lay a nest egg, kind of thing.
Yeah, like so, like because her
Uh,
thing is despair and like
the cats were parasites.
parasites, right? Like they're all interesting. Whereas like you can actually have an interesting build with like the generals where it's like, oh, this is the beast one, and um actually very fucking Sentai type setup, honestly. Where it's like, oh, here's the base, and then this is all the generals, and they all have their own gimmicks. Which I'm like, all right, if you're gonna fucking basically do the Sentai thing anyway, at least take the good parts of the Sentai. Um, but anyway, I guess coming back to this episode, they actually almost beat the Riders, but then the Riders hold on. They actually fought pretty hard. I like how like everybody was like switching up, like passing up the books and stuff, and like switching up.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like sharing their powers with each other.
yeah, that was pretty nice. I like.
I
Go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry, no, you go first.
I was gonna move on to Blades, but
Oh,
if you had something to say.
well, I just have one complaint about the fight. So at one point, they all split up, and all the riders are taking on their own opponent in one-on-one fights. And so it kind of gives you a short scene of each of them fighting. And then, it circles around to Toma fighting Caliber. And then out of nowhere, the other, like, villains show up to try and tackle Toma so that Caliber can get away. And then the other riders are just running in from off screen, catching up to them. It's like, what the fuck happened between 2 seconds ago and now?
Yeah, I think that's one of the weakest parts of the show is like it's really not great at continuity. I mean, you can say it's like, oh, it's because of COVID-19 that they shoot it, where it's like they can't like bridge segments, so they just have to shoot a scene, save it, shoot it, and then just link to together. I'm like, yeah, Rider's kind of bad, where it's like normally you'll be fighting in one location, then you're in another, but like they don't generally have the allies like randomly showing up, or if they do, it's at the beginning of a fight, but like not in the middle. I know what you mean. It's like it happens later on too when yeah, when like Cal or like Saber is about to get his ass kicked, and then like the rest of them show up to join. I'm like, that's a cool moment. It's like, oh, two fight locations just got linked up, but you have to have good continuity and like a good layout of where the fight's happening, like geography wise when you're filming that to show how like they're like slowly getting to the same location and stuff. Like that's actually kind of hard to do, but like this show is particularly trash at doing that, honestly. um but yeah, it's weird. But then again, like when you have so many monsters and like so many heroes fighting, like it's just gonna be like fuck it, we're just gonna have a fight to pad out the screen time. Okay, that fight connected with this fight, go. It's
Like,
like, yeah, it's a little lazy.
the choreography was all good, but like 75% of this episode was just an extended fight scene. And it feels like this whole arc feels like the final arc of any other show.
Yeah, I know, right? Like that's what I was saying. It's like, holy shit, we're just gonna build up to like beating Caliber and like taking out all the villains. I'm like, this is a very not X8, a guy move of like a one arc ends and like it's literally another season is the next arc, right?
Which was something that I liked about Gaim. That was one of the things that I liked about the show, was the way the story evolved as they moved on.
Yeah,
It's not really working here.
kind of. Yeah, it's also because this is much longer than the Gaim stuff, and like X8, I think actually did it probably the best, where it's like one thing links into the next. Like 01, not so well, not as good as X8, but like X8 definitely did it really well, where like one arc led to the next. Whereas
Where it
this
goes
is
from like beta testing games to an open world RPG to fucking augmented reality.
Well, I meant like how like it links with like how the villains' motivations are going, where it goes from like small scale to there to like more revelations to that. So like it
Oh
flows
yeah, yeah.
really well.
Right. The consequences build up
Right,
appropriately,
exactly.
but
Like the Kronos thing is a little dragged out, but like even then that kind of led to that. Um,
my problem with Kronos is that they beat him multiple times,
yeah,
and he just said no, but I didn't lose though.
yeah. Honestly, I think the arc is like the best version of Kronos, where it's like, oh, it loses, but like it doesn't really lose because the arc has so many tricks up its sleeve, and they're all different. You know, like
Yeah, like it's a difference between like, well, you beat my physical body, but I'm a robot, I'm an AI, I can just make a new body versus Kronos going, I will reset time so that I didn't lose.
yeah, and it's not even the cool way that not Oja, Odin does it. You know, where it's like it's an interesting plot point.
Right.
Whereas like the way like Kronos does it, it's like you didn't win, like time powers. It's like fuck you. Yeah, like if we could just merge X8 and like the ending, like the last arc of 01, like that show would be like insanely hard to beat as a writer show. Also, Fua, like worst advice of all time.
What was
Oh,
the
it's
advice?
fine. Leave him alone. He'll be fine. Like end of the world, Fua, because you couldn't go talk to your friend. You know, we just fucking had like someone he really cared about just explode. Jesus Christ. But yeah, whatever. Zero
Back
one.
to Saber.
Yeah, you know what? Like honestly, I think the biggest problem with Saber is like it's a follow up to 01. It's like you're following up like one of the like really good writer shows, like definitely with the how like its final arc went. So it's like really strong ending to this, and it's like, oh man, you know, I was like, oh, give the Ghost Writers a second chance, and it's like, yeah, they're not as terrible as I thought they'd be, but I'm like, that's not even true because they haven't even reached the heights of Ghost yet.
So this is written by the same person that wrote Ghost, right?
I think it's like the same three writers who were working on Ghost are working
Uh,
on this.
when I finally watched Ghost, I realized this is not nearly as bad as people told me it was.
Yeah, like Ghost problem is like pacing, but like Ghost is enjoyable, right? Like it's got the same problem of like it's terrible at exposition in the beginning, but that's like maybe 5 episodes tops,
And
right?
like,
And interesting shit is happening, whereas here it's like okay, it takes like 8 episodes of exposition, and the villains are nowhere near as interesting as Spectre or Alan or the human doctor do.
like Vashi told me that like, well, near the end of the show, Ghost has a lot of dropped plot points. After watching it, I realized those weren't dropped. They were just resolved in poor, unsatisfying ways.
Oh yeah, that's because like Ghost just goes into a holding pattern because like you know the lead writer's not there. So and then he comes back and is like, oh fuck, I have no time. You know, like this is how that ends. Like go. You know, it's like oh shit. Like it's just like yeah, we could have gotten here if we paced it out properly. But it's like, well, I mean, here's an answer. Nothing really built up to it, but here's an answer to that. And that's like Ghost's problem, whereas like Saber's problem is like, what am I even doing here, Saber? Um. Anyway, this is almost 44 minutes.
Yeah, I just want to. We can wrap this up in a minute. Blade's new power up.
Yeah.
I
like
just
it.
realized he has a Ryuki visor.
Oh yeah, yeah, the Ryuki visor. He has the freaking like arm gauntlets that like Knight has, except they're
It
wolf.
opens up and he puts his book in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Except he has 3 of them, so he's got like the cannon thing going from like well, there's a lot of cannon riders, but I don't know, like Tank from fucking Build, I guess, whatever. But the thing is, like, yeah, that's nice. Like, his form is pretty nice, too. Also, he turns into a freaking dumbass Megazord lion, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it.
I,
Go with it. We're never gonna see this form again, but it's nice.
my exact words when I was watching the episode was, "He's a Zord!"
Oh, yeah, yeah. Right? I'm like, dude, you know what's even funnier? They have the colors. They're fucking Voltron if they all turn into lions.
So,
yeah. But I was
speaking-
also sorry. I was also like, God damn it, Toei, what is it with you and secondary writers? Fucking Axel and then Laser and now Blades. It's like I'm like, okay, it's fun. I'll let it slide, but it's like, why is it always the secondaries? They just turn into random shit.
Speaking of bad CGI monsters,
I don't know. That was decent, but yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
you'd think that nearly 20 years after Ryuki, their CGI effects would have gotten better.
Oh hell no, they.
But the lion form is straight up the same quality as any contract monster.
Yeah, I think that's just a problem of like them having to do it in such a rush form. It's sort of a problem in like.
Yeah, I'm sure it's more of a studio problem than
Well,
a
it's
quality
not
problem.
even a studio problem. It's a lot more like the CGI industry has this problem of like so much shit needs to get CGI. Like there's so much CGI in movies now that like the production companies can actually make the CGI look better than most movies. It's just they don't have the fucking time to make it look better.
Right. Like, not to discredit anyone's work, it still looks good for what it is. It's just like, wow, in 20 years, it still looks like that.
Yeah, I mean, plus the thing is like it's not like they had like a standing studio of set like CGI artists that just improved. It's probably like a smaller group or newer people or just like one dude. I don't know, but like yeah, like you have to remember that these shows are real fucking cheap. Like Toei does not throw money at these shows. You'd think they would, but they don't.
Well,
Um,
the toy sales fund the show, so.
Sort of. I mean, the thing is, like, they do fund the show, but like Toei is insanely cheap most of the time. I mean, like they've gotten better at it, but it's like, yeah, they're still pretty. Like the production does not have the money you would think it would have. I mean,
to be fair, they
it's
bust
Japan.
out an episode a week for across an entire year.
Yeah, it's true. I was also plus it's nonstop. It's like, oh, that one show ends and another one begins. So it's
Yeah.
like
When we were watching Blade, I was telling a coworker about it, and then at the end, and she had been telling me about Supergirl. And the difference is that when Supergirl's season ended, she's like, "Oh man, I have no idea when the next season is going to air. Like it could be a year or more."
right.
And then when Blade ended, I told her like, "So Zeo starts next week," and she's like, "What? Build just ended."
Right, like no wait time. Oh man, honestly, I wish they would kind of give a little bit of wait time, but I'm like, this is just how they work now. It's fine.
Like a week.
Yeah, a week would be nice, but I mean, like, well, I mean, they obviously shoot the stuff a little ahead of time, but like again, it's probably like at max, like a month before this goes live. Not
Yeah,
even, right?
I believe, because I was shocked when I saw this. The cast of Build posted on Twitter. It's like just wrapped up filming the final episode a month before it aired. I was like, wow.
Yeah, right. Like no time for anything. And the only reason they do it that early is because then you have to edit the shit and put all the CGI. But like if they didn't need that, it'd probably be like 2 weeks before the shit airs, right? Like oh my god, it's fucking insane. I mean they make it work somehow, but yeah, it's crazy. But again, like Saber is not terrible. It's just it's decent to mediocre. Right? Like I haven't really seen a good episode of Saber and like it, we it's the problem is like there's no time spent with the characters to feel anything for anyone.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Like hopefully hopefully once we knock off Caliber and a couple of the other characters, we can get some plot. Okay, here's the other problem too, because normally the episodes where it's like, oh, the cast is kind of just like hanging out, they go somewhere, they do something. Because of COVID, they can't fucking go anywhere.
I feel like this many swordsmen were introduced too soon. Like, maybe a couple of them should have been held off until the second arc.
Yeah, but Christmas special, so you gotta fucking... Or not Christmas special, like, Christmas is coming up, so you gotta get all the
Christmas
toys.
toy sales, that's right. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, so that's what's happening, and I'm like, yeah, that's really what's killing this. Because, like, okay, how many villains do you have in Ghosts? You have... Let's see... There's the 3 bad guys, and then you have Ghost and his team. Like, yeah, Ghost has a big cast, right?
But
they're not all fucking
work.
writers. Yeah, it's because they actually have to go and investigate shit, which gives them time to, banter with each other, right? And, like, the villains get downtime because, like, they're just, like, the doctor dude is, like, messing with Alan with, like, the fucking takoyaki and all that. Because, like, like, the running joke in Ghost is, like, anything that's eye-shaped, like, the other worlders, like, get kind of a little obsessive about it. So he's just, like, messing with them. And then you have, like, the side thing of, like, Spectre, where he's, like, he's trying to figure out if he wants to betray the other group or, like, get his revenge, right? Right, and then you have the canon thing, and it's like there's all these mysteries, whereas this show has like, oh, there's one mystery of the truth, and it's like, wait, there's a mystery about the truth, right? Like that's the revelation you get. It's like, what? And then the thing is like, oh, actually Saber or Caliber isn't really Caliber, it's old Saber. I'm like, okay, that's sort of interesting, but it's like, why?
Why couldn't he just be Kento's dad? Why?
Right? It's like, oh, it's the worst.
And so, yeah, hopefully next week we learn what this truth is.
Or what he's seeking. But yeah, you're right.
It seems like it might be the actual final, for real, conclusion of Caliber.
Yeah. Here's the one problem though, like, Caliber dies, this show either gets real interesting or real boring. Right?
It depends on if the other villains can step up their game.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Right? Because either it's like, oh, Caliber's eating up too much screen time so the other villains don't get development, or Caliber dies and like they continue their like mediocre level of like cheap Sentai villain knockoff. Or like bad Power Rangers villain. Let's go with that, yeah. Where it's like they're just evil for the sake of evil. What's your reasoning for being here? I gotta pad out the script somehow. It's like, oh man, this is gonna be interesting. Yeah, I got nothing, honestly. Like, this episode was decent, but it's got problems. I mean, the show's got problems. This episode was okay. It all hinges on what the hell happens next week, because this whole arc kind of hinges on that. But anyway, that's all I got for today. Thanks for joining me, Rai.
No problem.
Yeah, we've been going for 54 minutes. Wow.
Wow, okay. Yeah, so thanks for joining us today, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday for Mashin Sentai Kira Major.
Yeah, and Saber episode 15, I guess, make or break. Yeah, thanks everyone. Catch you.